Hello, ladies and gentlemen. You are watching live from the studio. I'm Jimmy Selesky. And today we have yet another installment of Thursday Thoughts. Thursday Thoughts are one of my favorite segments we do on this channel because it gives us a chance to just kick back and pontificate on a particular issue or topic or what have you that vexes us so. And by us, I mean me, of course. I will probably be doing most of the talking. So I had the pleasure of watching a movie called Wall Street a couple nights ago. The movie came out in, I believe, 1987. It's got Michael Douglas in it. He plays like a badass, kind of just like typical greedy Wall Street guy. Then you got Charlie Sheen, a young Charlie Sheen. You got Martin Sheen, I think, his dad or whatever. And I don't want to spoil it for you, but the movie's been out for longer than I've been out. The movie's 37 years old. Okay. But regardless, I was looking at this and it reminded me of a very simple concept that you probably hear a lot. And that is true players don't just make money when the stock market is doing well. They make money when the stock market is doing badly. Market good, I profit. Market's bad, I profit. And this is inherently, it sounds cool on a poster. But if you think about it, it is an inherently evil concept, in my opinion, to incentivize profit from destruction. Because it is a lot harder to build than to destroy. You ever watch those like activists or whatever? They go into a museum and they take like a razor blade and just like slice. This just happened. Or they like slice up a painting, like some Renaissance painting from the 1600s. Some legendary artist painted, and it's been hung up in a museum. And some asshole, fighting for climate or something irrelevant, just goes in there and just destroys a painting, throws soup on it, whatever. And anybody can do that. Like literally anybody can do that. Not anybody can paint the Sistine Chapel, but anybody can destroy it. And so when you have a structure that in many ways incentivizes destruction as a viable means of profit, then you start to kind of understand what's going on in this country as you notice things suck more and more. And you're going, has nobody noticed how much this sucks? And that's because you're a normal person. A normal person, when they think of stocks, thinks, oh, this company looks good. I heard a lot about them. They look promising. I think I'm going to buy a couple shares in this company because I think that their value is going to go up and that's going to make me money. So now I am investing in a company to do better. I'm going to purchase some of their shares. And as they do better, I do better. Everybody wins. That's how the average person thinks of the stock market. But then you get into the derivatives market and all these other things and you realize, holy shit, this is just one big fucking casino. Like literally. I think it's safe to say I went through quite a gambling phase a couple months ago. It's not that I'm not interested in gambling now. It's just I realized that the amount of time to dedicate to becoming a profitable gambler and the amount of time it takes to dedicate towards being a completely unwatched YouTube content creator, there's not enough hours in the day to be both. And the worst I can do with this is just nobody watches this. So I kind of had to prioritize. But I still found it fascinating. And the thing I realized when I delved in deep into gambling for like a year and a half, 2 years, like real far, learned a lot of math, learned a lot of things. But what I really realized was people say Wall Street investment, whatever, stocks is a casino game. And people think it's that is said as like a metaphor or a hyperbolic analogy or an embellishment or something that sounds nice, but it's really not I mean, yeah, I get the sentiment, but no. It literally is a casino. Literally. The only difference between you looking at Apple stock and going, you know what? I feel like I've been reading a couple articles that Apple's going to release this new product, and I think it's going to do well. I'm actually going to buy some stock in Apple this week. I bet you the shares are going to go up. The difference between that and you going, dude, I heard they're going to start Mark Andrews this week. Lamar's healthy again. There's no fucking way Ravens don't cover against the Steelers this weekend. The difference between those two things is nothing. It's nothing. The only difference is one has a image of slick back hair, nice suits, whatever, dignified retirement account, old money. And the other has the image of some degenerate douchebag. I mean, sure, yeah, there's still investment in trying to make places better and finding those companies that are going to improve, but there's so much going on behind the ball, literally like a game of roulette where people are betting on whether or not the stock's going to go up in the next day. Who gives a shit? How are you investing in the long term if I bet you the price is going to go up today and I'm going to sell it? And then you have shorting, and people heard about shorting stocks. This got real big with GameStop a couple years ago and everybody, was trying to understand what that meant. Even including myself, I knew that they were able to make money off of downturns, but I didn't realize that it was like literally as much of a thing, if not more profitable than making money off of, gradual, consistent improvement. You would think that, oh shit, if I get GameStop at $50 a share and they do well, and then in 10 years from now, the price has risen to $60 a share, well, I just made $10 a share. That's cool. But then you go, well, wait a second. Or I could short them, and I'll do my best crypto guy explanation of this. I'm not a crypto guy at all, but they love talking about it. The easiest explanation I can give you is you have GameStop shares at $50 a pop. I borrow them from you. I sell them to somebody else and pocket the $50 per share. And then a week from now, if the stocks go down as I am betting on, let's say they go down, they plummet, now they're down to $25 a share, I simply go back on the market, buy the shares back for $25 a pop, give them back to you as if nothing changed. I only borrowed them from you. I have to give them back, right? But I sold them for $50. A week later, I bought them back for $25. So I've made $25 a share in profit. And you have your shares just as if nothing ever happened. And I just made a 50% profit on the company doing worse. So I'm now, quote unquote, investing. I'm moving money in the market, preying on the downfall of the market. And as I said, it's easier to destroy than to build. It's a lot harder to create a company or identify a company that has legitimate future, that has legitimate potential, that makes money, is highly profitable, and is consistently rising in their stock value. That's difficult. Again, not just to create, but to even identify a company that will have that trajectory. That's difficult to do. What's not difficult is to destroy a company. It's difficult to paint Mona Lisa. It's pretty easy to throw soup on that painting. So you buy into something's downfall, and then you assure the downfall. And step 3, profit. If I was an art investor and my job was to find the next Mona Lisa, the next Who painted the Mona Lisa? Michelangelo? I don't even know. Whatever. Whichever fucking Ninja Turtle painted the Mona Lisa, you get what I'm saying. I'm an art investor. I'm trying to find the next guy, the next Mona Lisa. Mona Lisa, probably, I don't know, $1 billion painting? $1 billion? I don't even know. That sounds wrong, but it also sounds right. It's like the most famous painting in the world, right? Like I've seen bananas taped to walls that are valued at like 5 million. So Mona Lisa's an easy billion. Whatever, doesn't matter. Point being, my job is to find out the startup painter whose paintings are only selling at like, $1,000 a pop, and invest in, get in on that. Get a share in that. And then when that artist pops off and his paintings start selling at $1 million a pop or whatever, you've made money. And that's a good way to make money because your investment helps him. And because you believe in him, you're giving him money that he can then turn into more product. And then it makes him money, it makes you money, and it makes for a better product. It's better for everyone. But that's also difficult. It's difficult, much like it is to take over a company and hire good managers that are going to take that company to the next level. It's more difficult to do that than to find a painting that already is the Mona Lisa, just find the Mona Lisa, and profit off of its devaluation, especially if you're the one holding the can of soup. So you have people that are able to make money, profit from destruction. And you see this all the time. What I am saying is that what we are witnessing, in my opinion, is the shorting of America and the West. The Great Reset, as they call it, is another term that is used that has a connotation of conspiracy theory and whatever. But we've seen time and time again, disaster capitalism. They make money going in, they make money going out. The military-industrial complex, when they say they're having $90 billion in foreign aid to Ukraine, what do you think that means? Do you think it means we're sending $90 billion to Ukraine? Not quite. No. The vast majority of that money, if I recall correctly, about 80%, goes directly to our weapons manufacturers to manufacture more weapons to send to Ukraine. And we call that foreign aid because we are buying weapons from our own corporations on behalf of Ukraine. So they make money blowing shit up. And then when all the dust is settled and it's time to rebuild, it'll be many of those same companies and more all cashing in on the rebuild. So they're making money both ways. Because what happens is a lot of times people ask, like, you hear all about the communist revolutions and countries and leaders taking over and wanting more power. Why are they doing this? Why is BlackRock influencing over everything with more ESG restrictions and whatever? And it's like, oh, they just want more power. That's why they just want power. That's never been a good enough explanation for me. It's like, really? Maybe like a couple psychos just purely want power, but I'm a big follow the money guy. So I want it outlined to me in terms that I can understand. And a good way that's helping me understand it is when something becomes less valuable than the sum of its parts. We understand this when you total a car. It is more lucrative to sell that off, to profit from its demise, than to continue to try to improve it. Take this show, for example. This show is actually one of the best examples, maybe in the universe, of a product that is less than the sum of its parts. If someone were to step in and value live from the studio. The show, I don't know what that number would be. I'm going to go with 0. And that's on a good day because it may very well be negative. But the sum of its parts, the microphones, the cameras, the computers, the studio, everything that goes into it, that's valuable. This is a $400 microphone. I got 4 of them. Those cameras are $800 a pop. Computers are no joke. Those things are no joke. Really, nothing in here is no joke except for me, apparently. So if I were a smart investor and I bought up live from the studio, probably the most lucrative thing I could do is not to sit there and wait for Jimmy Selesky to get more views. No, probably the easiest money I could make and the surest money I could make is to fire Jimmy Selesky, sell all the microphones, sell all the cameras, sell all the computers, and pocket the cash. Because the sum of its parts are greater than the whole. And I got to witness this actually recently in my apartment building that I moved out of. When I first moved into my apartment building 5 years ago, over 5 years ago, going on 6. I don't live there anymore. November 2018. It was a nice building. It was a great building. I loved my unit. We had a balcony. You could see the harbor. You could see the Key Bridge, which no longer exists, from my balcony in Towson, the suburbs. The building had nice lighting fixtures, carpeting. Management team cared. They were invested. It was a little annoying because, they didn't let certain shit slide, but it kept things in order. So I respected it. And then shortly thereafter, a new management team took over. And mind you, during this time, all these new buildings are coming up. Luxury apartment buildings all around us. And this building that I was living in was built in like the 60s, 70s or something. And, things weren't built to code and everything was done differently back then. And the architecture was dated and everything inside it was dated. It looked nice, but, it was, for all intents and purposes, totaled. They weren't going to be able to make this building compete with the brand new luxury apartment buildings that were being built up around it. There was simply no way. It would be less cost effective to renovate and improve this building than to do what they did instead, which is profit from its demise. And so what did they do? They took it over, and at each step of the way, if a pipe burst and destroyed carpet, when they replaced the carpet, they didn't replace it with equally nice carpet. They didn't replace the ceiling with an equally nice textured ceiling. They didn't replace the light fixtures with equally elegant lighting. No, they got the absolute cheapest carpet you can buy. And I know this because I bought the second absolute cheapest carpet you could buy for this studio when we built it 10 years ago. It's like this brown, shitty, cardboard thick carpet. Well, it was, I think at the time, it was like a couple cents per square foot or something. And I remember there was only one carpet sample less per square foot when I was at Home Depot. And the only reason I didn't get that was because I didn't like the color. I thought brown, the earth tone, would go better with the vibe of the studio. But the only one cheaper was this blue carpet. And when I saw them put that down, I was like, they meant business. They bought the absolute cheapest carpet you can buy to replace the old carpet. They replaced the ceilings with this cheap, shitty acoustic foam ceilings, the tile that you get in like school buildings and shit. They replaced these nice lighting fixtures with the LED office building lights. Elevators are always going down. They never spent the money to fix it. Painted the walls flat white. And just turned it into just an eyesore. And I'm thinking, How do they expect people to put up with this? You know, people, and the rent keeps going up, mind you. They're not decreasing the rent. The rent keeps going up. And so I'm sitting there thinking, how do they expect other people, much less me and whoever else, to be paying more and more in rent every month? And everything is getting worse. I'm no longer proud to show people where I live. And then you start noticing the tenants in the building shift over. When I first moved in, it was awesome. I was in my mid-20s. You know, nice families, whatever, college people. It was fun. It was like a good vibe. It was a place to be. You know, it wasn't overtly a college building. It wasn't overtly low income. It was just like everybody was just kind of on the same playing field. And then I started looking around. I started noticing, I think we might be the only people on our floor that are actually paying fucking rent. I would see late fees on every door. Evictions every other month. And what I realized is that they had converted most of the units into Section 8. Section 8 is government-funded housing where the beneficiary of that, the person living in the home or whatever, only has to pay, I think the usual standard is 1 week's salary towards rent, and the government will cover the rest. So in the eyes of the landlord, it's great because it's guaranteed money. The government isn't going to stiff you on rent. So I'm sitting here in my apartment towards the end, paying almost $2,000 a month to live in a 2-bedroom after my brother moved out. Meanwhile, I probably was the only idiot in that building that actually was paying fucking rent at that point. And it got to the point I couldn't even do it anymore. And so I left. And now I'm here. And I'm not mad about that. I'm glad to be out. If you're the Berkshire's management team and you recognize that you can't compete, you simply cannot compete with the buildings around you, then the next best thing you can do is to pinch every penny, spare every expense, maintain the building at the absolute bare minimum required to keep it inhabitable, and try to squeeze out as much as you can from the idiots that are still willing to pay rent and otherwise Section 8, government paychecks, low income housing. And I got to watch it in the span of 5 years, and it was a pretty quick transformation. Didn't take long. It was like night and day when I moved in there in 2018 and when I moved out in barely 2024. I moved in there in November 2018. I moved out March 2024. So we're talking 5 years and a couple months. And it was night and day what can happen in that span of time. And I wasted so much of my breath, so much of my effort trying to communicate to them how fucking much they suck at their job. And I guess the mistake I made was assuming that they cared. I guess what I was thinking in my mind was, do you not realize how badly you're running this building into the ground? Assuming that if they truly did realize that they would change. But I guess what I've come to actually realize is they absolutely knew they were running the building in the ground. That was their point. They got pissed at me and my brother and certain other tenants there for noticing it and calling them out on it and holding them to task because they didn't actually have an answer. What are they going to say? Yeah, I know we're purposely fucking this up to turn this into low-income housing because we can't compete with the luxury apartments around us. So instead, we're going to convert every unit into Section 8 and see how long we can run that until eventually we demolish the building and sell the real estate? We're going to tell me that? Yeah, that's why we're not going to fix the pipes, dude. That's why we're always out of water. Because I'm not going to spend the extra money to get a guy to come out during Christmas break to fix the water for the building. So instead, you're just not going to have water for 2 weeks during Christmas and New Year's, which is like almost illegal, but maybe not. So what's the maximum amount of time I can keep the building without water? That's how long we're going to keep the building without water. Fuck you. And I'm sitting there being like, you realize this is blah, blah, blah. And they're like, well, you know, meanwhile, they're thinking like, yeah, fuck you. Move out, bitch. Plenty of Section 8 that can't wait to take over 1115. And they're already in there, from what I hear. I mean, look at our cities. You look around, you see all these things going to shit. You see homelessness in these places like San Francisco and Los Angeles, these places that apparently, if you talk to anybody that lived there, there's nothing they care more about than the poor and the homeless. And yet, they're the cities that are doing the absolute worst about it. They are the ones with the most institutions for the homeless, the most safety nets in place. And yet, there seems to be a direct correlation between how much you care about the homeless and how many homeless people there are. And I'm starting to think it's not an accident. It's not because they're idiots. I think the people in power, like the positions, the seats of power, let's say, the mayors, the councilmen, whatever, they're idiots for the most part. They're yes men. They're company people. They don't know what they're doing. There's an incentive passed down from the party. Hey, do this. Hey, we're pushing this. Okay, and they do it because that's what it is. They're company men. But the people that are controlling those incentives, the people that are creating the policies that are leading to all this homelessness and drug addiction and crime and everything else, and then telling the figureheads in the actual seats of power that have no idea what the fuck they're doing, and that's exactly why they're there, because they want somebody who has no idea what the fuck they're doing, so they just do and say whatever they're lobbied or incentivized to do by the higher ups and the parties and the controlling interests. And they go, oh, well, you know, we need to address this homelessness with more of this and more of that. And then you realize, oh, wait, you know why there's so many fucking homeless people in San Francisco? Because you have entire industries built around the homelessness crisis. And if your entire business is the homeless, then the last thing you want is for the homelessness crisis to disappear, because now you've just lost your business. If you're the guy who runs the soup kitchen, who gets stipends from the government to make this many bagged lunches or to do this or to do that, hand out free needles, whatever it may be, those are all programs. Somebody is making money. They are profiting off of low-income housing. They are profiting off of food stamps and the welfare programs as a whole. They are profiting off the homeless. They are profiting off the drug epidemics. And you're looking around and you think that you're going to make some argument that's going to open their eyes to see that this is not the right way. Well, guess what, idiot? Anybody with eyes can see that this is fucked up. And it's only a matter of time until you stop trying to debate their point. This is what I talked about with pre-programming. On Tuesday, you are programmed to assume that they give a shit and that the only disconnect between the right thing and what they're doing is they just don't understand what they're doing. Because if they did, then surely they wouldn't do it. Well, that's the case for your local congressman, maybe. That's the case for your mayor, maybe. Probably. Because again, they're just the fucking sock puppet delivering you the policies. But the hand that's moving the mouth, The money that's flowing into that party and that politician's pockets, they know exactly what the fuck they're doing. Just like my landlord knew what he was doing. Of course I'm not going to fix the homelessness crisis, dick. I make too much money off of it. Of course I don't want people off welfare, dumbass. I want to keep people dependent. I want to keep people dependent on my programs. Keep people in a constant state of financial dependence so that they continue voting for me, my party. Keep the city as a whole in a state of despair. And this probably goes for almost every major city. They are unsustainable. They have been turned into money-sucking, bottomless pits of outside resources and funding that never get to where they're supposed to go, because if they fucking actually did, then the city would actually improve, and then the big faucet of money coming in from everywhere else gets turned off. So what person in their right mind would end that cash grab? Certainly not the ones profiting from it. You want to take over a company and bet on its downfall, you fire the good managers, you put in shitty managers. And you wait for them to fuck up. Or you direct them to fuck up because they don't know any better. They don't know the difference between fucking up and not fucking up. That's what makes them a fuck up. They just know that they have a job and they get to be on TV and they get to go to cool parties and they make good money and people look at them as this honorable, respectful person, and that's all most people need. I believe this is what is happening with this country. I believe that this is not, I always used to say, and I've always kind of ran with the theory, and I still do in most cases, I do believe that this applies in most cases, and that is never attribute to malice what can be attributed to incompetence. Meaning, don't assume somebody means bad just because they're fucking up, because more often than not, it's just because they're a fuck up. They didn't do it on purpose. There's not some grand scheme. They just suck at their job. And that's why most shit around you sucks. And that is the case for the most part. But then you look at everything going on right now and you see this active effort to divide this country, to go against every sensible thing that would improve our place in the world for the average American. And sure, maybe this is all naivety. Maybe this is all incompetence. They just really believe this and that. But I don't know. I think there's more. The more I think about it, the more I truly believe that a person who is this ineffective at managing the country could not possibly be this effective at dividing us and destroying us. We are being destroyed from every angle in this country and in the West as a whole, so surgically, every step of the way, that there's no way it's just an accident. I remember, speaking of gambling, when I first test ran a system I developed for baseball bets. And in the first month, I was betting on like 50-50 bets, like over under, stuff like that. It's all just coin flip odds, basically. So in theory, I should have won about half just if I was picking randomly. And of course, if you win half after the juice, you've lost money. So you have to win like more than half of the bets in order to profit, which is why gambling is hard. I think I got like 25% of them. So I had this incredibly unlucky streak of bets. And I remember my friends were like, dude, I don't think your system works. Like, yeah, okay, sure. Maybe it will eventually pan out, but like, this is pretty shitty. And I said to them, look, I believe this is luck. Do you know why I believe this is luck? Because if it wasn't luck, then I have accidentally figured out the best gambling system in the history of gambling in reverse. Because if I can correctly guess the wrong outcome of a game with 75% accuracy, all I have to do is just pick the opposite of whatever system I've developed, and now I'm fucking rich. So if you're telling me that my system is actually this bad, then it's actually this good. And that's what I'm telling you about this country. Either everything you're seeing around you is just coincidentally going to shit, which is incredible how amazingly effective Lady Luck has caused everything around you to become worse. Or this is obviously part of a plan. And you know how else I know? Because when that plan is challenged, there's got to be a reason why they are so deathly opposed. So no, everything I'm observing leads me to believe that this is a purposeful destruction of really the West, and people are profiting the whole way down in one way or another, and when they eventually make all the money that can be made out of the destruction, they will begin the process of profiting off of the rebuild. I'll leave you with this clip. This is a classic clip from a movie called Trading Places. Came out in 1983. Dan Aykroyd, Eddie Murphy. Good movie. Basically, the plot is, and I recommend you watch it. It's funny. Dan Aykroyd's character is a big-time Wall Street investor, and Eddie Murphy's character is just like a homeless guy, scam artist or whatever. And the other guys at the investment bank firm make a bet. They just want to see what happens if they switch places. Like, we'll take everything from Dan Aykroyd, we'll put Eddie Murphy in the place, and they just trade places. So now all of a sudden Dan Aykroyd is a homeless guy, and Eddie Murphy is top guy at this firm or whatever. And this is a clip when Eddie Murphy is first introduced to the office, and I think it so well sums up everything we just talked about.
This is Billy Ray's vase, right? I own this vase, and I can play like Harlem Globetrotter shit with it in, right? Okay, you want Mellow Lemon shit, right? Hey, man, I'm sorry about that.
Perfectly all right, William. It was your vase.
That's a cheap vase, man. That was a fake, right?
I think we paid $35,000 for it. But I seem to remember we estimated its value at $50,000 for the insurance company. You see, Mortimer, William has already made us a profit of $15,000.
And that, my friends, sums it all up so perfectly in a scene, and you got to believe that wasn't an accident either. Till next time, my name is Jimmy Selesky. This has been live from the studio. Leave us a subscription, hit us with a like or comment. In the meantime, I will continue to practice saying leave us with a subscription. Leave us a subscription. That's tough. They should make that easier. Somebody should look into that. Till next time, folks. Peace.